Welcome back to Sky Parlor History, where we rummage around in America's attic and awaken the sleeping stories of the past. Today, we're delving into the dark and mysterious world of the Bell Witch, an American legend that has haunted the collective imagination for centuries and inspired American horror films such as The Blair Witch Project, An American Haunting, and more. Before we get started, subscribe to our channel and leave us a comment on the next story you'd like us to uncover. Our story begins in the early 19th century in a quiet Tennessee settlement known as Adams. The Bell family, led by John and Lucy Bell, found themselves at the center of a terrifying paranormal phenomenon that would take up years of their lives and soon become the stuff of legends. The first written documentation about the Bell Witch was a book written by the youngest son in 1846. He had been 6 years old when the haunting began. He called his book Our Family Trouble, the story of the Bell Witch. Then, 50 years later, in 1894, another book on the subject was published. That makes this ghost story one of the longest running and most publicized in US history. The Bell family's life began unraveling in 1817 when strange occurrences began plaguing them. It all began innocuously enough with strange animals suddenly appearing around the property. John Bell himself encountered a creature that looked like a dog with the head of a rabbit. When he fired his gun at the animal, it disappeared. The other members of the family also had experiences with mysterious apparitions, including a large glaring bird, a ghostly little girl, and a dog that began stalking Dean, an enslaved person living on the farm. Each night as he walked through the dark woods, he noticed that he was repeatedly followed by a large black dog that occasionally had two heads and occasionally had none. Soon, the bizarre happenings moved inside the Bell house with strange sounds like knocking, gnawing on beds, invisible dogs fighting, and chains being dragged across the floor. The sounds would keep the family up all night long. All of the members of the family were tortured by the incessant noises that would start in one place and move from room to room. They looked under beds and in closets, but there was never anything there. And just as quickly as the maddening noises began, they would just stop. As the years passed, the Bell Witch's activities escalated from mere pranks to physical violence. John Bell began experiencing paralysis in his mouth, sheets were being pulled from beds while children were asleep, and a particular emphasis was being focused on Betsy, who experienced pinches, slaps, the sensation of being pricked with pins, and even her hair being tied to the bedposts while she slept. At first, the family was afraid to share their concerns with others. As an elder of the Red River Baptist Church, just 125 years after the Salem witch trials, John Bell feared alienation. But soon, it became too much to bear alone, and he invited friends and neighbors to come see for themselves. As the people around began giving her more and more attention and asking her questions, it seemed that the Bell Witch found her voice. First, a whistling noise, and then progressing to her voice becoming stronger and stronger, to eventually being able to impersonate voices with impressive accuracy. The witnesses often asked it to identify itself and noticed that the apparition would speak out loud, calling itself a disgruntled spirit. It would send the family on fool's errands, just to laugh at their attempts to do its bidding. Eventually, after much prodding about its identity, the ghost said it was Old Kate Batts, the witch, and began responding to the name Kate. There happened to be a neighbor down the way by the name of Kate Batts, and Kate did not have a great relationship with John Bell, as she sold him his piece of land and always felt she had gotten a bad deal. She was also somewhat of an outcast, accused of being a witch, but she was very much alive, and just a neighbor with a bad reputation and a bit of a grudge. The Bell Witch seemed to enjoy going to visit the homes of the neighbors and coming back to spill the tea with the Bells, stirring up trouble amongst the neighbors. If the witch was asked a question that she didn't know the answer to, according to the Bell's youngest son, she would often say, "I don't know. Wait a minute and I'll go see." She also enjoyed entertaining or tormenting visitors almost like a tourist attraction. As a matter of fact, people were traveling all the way from Middle Tennessee and southern Kentucky just to visit the Bell Witch. The spirit enjoyed debating religious matters, even quoting sermons word for word that had happened simultaneously in different parts of town. The more attention the Bell Witch received, the more intense the hauntings became. At one point, a family friend, William Porter, a bachelor neighbor of the Bells, was at home in bed when the witch paid him a visit. She told him she had come to get into bed with him and keep him warm. Yikes. He told her that she better behave. He felt the bed covers lift and roll away from him as if the witch had wrapped herself up in a roll. He took the opportunity to try to throw the invisible spirit into the fire, but said the massive weight and the terrible stench were too much to bear. The witch seemed to flee. The spirit seemed to prefer Lucy to John, even calling her the most perfect woman living, and would occasionally bring her fresh fruit and sing her hymns. However, to John, the spirit made it clear that her intentions were to kill him, as well as break up the engagement of the daughter, Betsy, with her suitor. Her voice would become louder and more shrill as she announced that
Mr. Bell is a bad man.
She eventually did kill John through poison. John Bell's death was officially attributed to the Bell Witch, making Tennessee the only state to attribute a person's death to the supernatural. The witch couldn't leave well enough alone after her victory and crashed John's funeral, singing drinking songs loudly in her celebration of his death. After John's death, Betsy broke off her engagement and the Bell Witch's work was done. She vacated the property, or so it seemed. After the paranormal activity ceased in the house, the Bell Witch was said to venture outside to a nearby cave to terrorize people who dared enter the cave, even pulling one boy out feet first. Many visitors to the cave today, and in the past, have reported misty, human-shaped figures moving through the cave's corridors. The Bell Witch was known for her accurate predictions of the future, and also vowed to leave and return, which she seemingly did throughout the lives of the Bell's children. At one time in 1828, it said she returned to haunt John Bell Jr. for 3 nights, speaking to him of his past, present, and future. And again in 1935, the witch paid a visit to a descendant of Bell's. Since then, Lucy Bell Butler, a living descendant of John Bell, says she and her family still experience the Bell Witch from time to time. The legend of the Bell Witch spread throughout the community, attracting the attention of curious onlookers, including renowned figures like Andrew Jackson, who encountered her and, according to legend, has had some battles with her when he passed through that part of Tennessee. The Bell Witch legend has had a long-lasting effect on American folklore and pop culture. It has inspired books, movies, and even a long-running haunted attraction and historic site in Adams, Tennessee. The tale of the Bell Witch continues to capture the imagination of those who are drawn into the macabre and unexplained. Skeptics have tried to explain the phenomenon through natural causes like geophysical events or mental illness within the Bell family. However, these explanations often fail to account for the full scope of the reported events and many witnesses. As we close this chapter on the Bell Witch, one thing is clear: some questions may never be answered, and the legend will continue to captivate and haunt our imaginations for generations to come. So, what are your thoughts? Do you believe the Bells were haunted by old Kate Bats, or do you have another explanation? If you enjoyed this spine-tingling journey, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more bone-chilling content like this, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss a story. And we'll see you next time.